ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We will continue on our journey on chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. Last time we covered verses up to 28. So today we'll start with verse number 29. Verse number 29 and 30th are actually transformative verses, very, very deep and not easy to practice. But we will see how we can move on that path. So let us read the verse number 29 first. सर्वव्यापी अनंत चेतन में एक ही भाव से स्थित रूप योग से युक्त आत्मा वाला तथा सब में संभाव से देखने वाला योगी आत्मा को संपूर्ण भूतों में स्थित और संपूर्ण भूतों को आत्मा में स्थित देखता है. Now the crux of this verse is संपूर्ण भूतों को आत्मा में स्थित और संपूर्ण सब भूतों को आत्मा में स्थित देखता है और आत्मा में सब भूतों को स्थित देखता है. Now this is a very, very profound statement which can be made only by those who have become one with Brahman. There are many verses on this. Atmavat sarvbhutesu ye paschati sa pandita. This is another verse appearing somewhere else. That जो व्यक्ति सब भूतों को अपनी तरह से देखता है वो ही संसार में सच्चाई देखता है. इसमें in this verse it goes two way around, that first you look everybody else in your own self and then you look the self in everybody else. How is it possible? We will go into detail of this verse. Let us first also read the verse number 30th because they are very closely correlated. जो पुरुष संपूर्ण भूतों में सबके आत्म रूप मुझ वासुदेव को व्यापक देखता है और संपूर्ण भूतों को मुझ वासुदेव के अंतर्गत देखता है उसके लिए मैं अदृश्य नहीं होता और वह मेरे लिए अदृश्य नहीं होता. Now this is also meaning more or less similar, that you look everybody in the Almighty and you look Almighty into everybody's existence. Now how do you do that? To understand this, let us go into some details. Firstly, let us have a look at the cycle of life, how the life moves in this world. Let's start with a very simple example of water cycle. Now, water cycle, you have water in the ocean. With the sun rays, it goes up and form into form of clouds. And then the clouds move with the wind velocity here and there. Then again with the what we call condensation process, that is the temperature of the water comes down or go up, and then the rain starts or snow falls or hails come, depending on the condensation process, the temperature between the clouds and the wind. So then again it becomes water or snow and then again comes back to the ocean. So this cycle, water cycle, continues constantly. It has been going on for infinite years. We don't know since when. And this is keep nurturing life in the world, in the universe. So this is an example of the cycle of life. The water is in that sense, maintaining life. Now look at our own cycle, human beings. We come from a small little seed, the fetus is formed, and then we grow into, in the womb of the mother for 9 months, 10 months, and then we are coming coming into the world. As a child, we are innocent, we keep moving, and then we become teenager, and then we become young, and then we have lots of dreams, and we have all kinds of expectations and energy, and all that is oozing in the youth. And then people uh, get into their jobs, and they get married, and then they get into the family life, and then slowly they get engaged more and more into the world. And then what happens? Then this health starts weakening after a while, and then you become old, and then you wait for the death to come, and then the person dies, and then again perhaps he is reborn. So this is the cycle which continues. Now this cycle continues in every facet of life, whether it is fish, whether it is a bird, whether it is an animal, whether it's a human being. This is the same cycle. The same cycle applies to the what we call non-moving objects in the world, whether they are mountains or whether they are anything else. Now, despite this cycle, you see, you will always find young people in this world. You will always find the children in this world. You will always find the old people in the world. You will always find people tempted and attracted by power, by wealth. So, all this is a continuous process. If you look deep into this, the world continues on its own rhythm, irrespective of the status of an individual. Whatever I do in life does not impact on the cycle of life. If we look at very dispassionately, the cycle of life continued before I was born. It will continue after I am dead. So the cycle of life continues constantly, uninterrupted, with all the facets of life demonstrating all the time. Whenever you want to see, you will see a child, you will also see a young man, you will also see the youth, you will also see people suffering from pain and disease, and you will also see people in old age, and you will also see people dying. So this is how the life moves. The cycle of life is independent of our individual existence. This is what we have to understand. And this cycle of life moves how? How does it move? Who makes it move? If we understand who makes this move, then we will realize that there is a sort of power, there is a sort of, um, a force which makes this life cycle move constantly in a sort of a stream which keeps going and going and going infinitely. Now, this is what we have to understand the superior force which runs this universe. And once we start seeing this force everywhere, because this force is everywhere, this force is omnipresent, whether it is the life of a bird, or whether it's the life of a fish, or whether it's the life of a river, whether it's the life of a mountain, or life of the earth itself. This force is omnipresent everywhere. Now, that is the force which is being talked about here. If you start seeing this force everywhere, you are already completing one particular condition of these verses, that you are seeing the Almighty everywhere. In everything, you see the Almighty. You see Him all pervading. He is pervading everything, omnipresent. Now, this is what we have to understand. The reality of this world, the reality of our existence is continuously flowing, irrespective of my absence or my presence. So this is one factor. Even if thousands of people die, millions of people die, the life cycle will continue. It will never get interrupted. It will move forward all the time. So if we understand this particular aspect of life, then we can understand that force which governs this universe. And that force we are talking about here, if we start realizing His presence everywhere, the presence of that force, whatever name you give, You call it Atma or you call it Paramatma, doesn't matter. That force governs this universe. So that is one condition we fulfill. Now, how do we fulfill the other condition, that you see the whole world in yourself? That is, that's much more difficult. How do you see everything in yourself? Because you are only a small little particle in this whole universe. You are not even like a dust. So, to understand this world, I'll take you to Mandukya Upanishad and the dream state of mind. Each one of us have a dream state of mind. After we finish our day, we sleep. Practically, everybody has some dreams in the night. If not all the nights, at least, once a while, they have dreams. Now, what happens during the dream? During the dream, this world is disappeared, already demolished, finished, destroyed. This world doesn't exist. And you create a new world. A world is created by you. Yourself is a player in that world. And you are able to see yourself playing the part. So your own self is also distinct from your own body, which is also appearing in the dream. And the new world is, you see the cities, you see the people, you see the animals, you see water bodies, you see mountains. In that world you see everything which you see in this world. Where does that world appear? That world appears in you. That world is appearing in your consciousness. Your consciousness gets divided into two parts. One is your own self, another is the new world altogether, which you create. And this world in which we are living, this physical world, things are destroyed. This doesn't exist anymore. So now you realize that you can create a world. Your own consciousness can create a world in which everything exists. So that is how we can understand that everything exists in you. Aham Brahmasmi, that concept comes from there. That everything which exists outside, it exists in you. And that is absolutely visible, which is absolutely demonstrated, it is absolutely given to everybody when you have the dreams in the night. The dream state of the night clearly demonstrates that in you the whole universe can appear, and even you are different than your own self because you see yourself. Since you are an object, your body is an object, and you are able to see yourself behaving in that dream world, it means that your consciousness is separate from you, it is separate from the rest of the world, and the entire universe appears into that consciousness. So, this is the way we can understand that everything is pervaded by the Almighty. If we are able to see that existence of the Almighty in everybody else, that is one condition fulfilled. Then, if we can see that everybody appears in you, because that consciousness which you have has demolished this world and created a new world, you can see that every time in the dream, it means that everything can appear in you. Even otherwise, in our Shastras, we say that whatever is there in this Brahmand is there in this pind. In this pind means in this your self existence. So that is why Aham Brahmasmi concept came into being. So these two realities we have to understand. So let's go back into this world. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvatram cha mai pashyati. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvatram cha mai pashyati. The person who sees me everywhere, he sees me into everybody else as well. So this is one particular factor, that everything is pervaded by the Almighty. This is what we have to understand from verse number 29, that uh, everything is governed by the Almighty. We can see the life cycles, everything is moving, and without the consciousness, nothing can move. So there is individual consciousness, there is a universal consciousness, both of them are moving, and therefore that existence we can see that everywhere there is a universal consciousness, everywhere there is Brahman. And then the whole universe is in you, that I explained with the example of dream state of our mind. So this is what this verse number 29 says, that when a person is reaching a state where he sees me everywhere and everybody is seen into me, then he is one with me. I think that is the practice we have to do. And this practice can come with meditation. Meditation, not in the sense of dhyan, but in the sense of manan. You have to meditate on this very concept that this whole universe is moving, moving, moving. Every, you know, species of life and every individual existing in this universe cannot move without consciousness. So there is a consciousness in everybody who is existing here. That is one factor very clear, and therefore that consciousness is demonstration of the Almighty. The Almighty exists in everybody. Let us start looking at that. Now the question will arise that then why do people do wrongs? That question will be answered separately. We'll deal with that when this question will also be raised by. It was already raised by Arjuna, but we will deal with that question separately. Now the second thing is that how can everybody exist in me? Yes, that is what happens every day in the night. We see the whole universe appearing in myself, in my consciousness. Everything appears. So the whole Brahmand appears in myself. And even otherwise, if I don't have consciousness, this world doesn't exist for me. The very existence of this world becomes possible because I have consciousness. The day I lose my consciousness, there's no world at all. The whole universe is gone. So the consciousness is the cause and result everything of our existence. So this is what this verse number 29 says, and I think we should understand this word, this verse very clearly. This mantra is the deepest experience of the persons who have become one with the Almighty. And this we can experience slowly, slowly. It doesn't come out in one go. It will come out when we keep, meditating on this particular concept. Meditating, I mean, we keep मनन इसके ऊपर आप करते रहेंगे तो ये जरूर धीरे 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 क्लियर होता जाएगा that every body is pervaded by Almighty and the whole universe is in me. Now, once you reach that state, then Lord Krishna is saying that जो पुरुष संपूर्ण भूतों में सबके आत्म रूप परमात्मा को देखता है, in all that exists in this world, if we start looking at that Paramatma in them, then उन सब भूतों को मेरे अंदर देखता है परमात्मा, उन भूतों में परमात्मा को देखता है और उन सब भूतों को मेरे अंदर देखता है. उसके लिए मैं अदृश्य नहीं होता हूं, वो मेरे लिए अदृश्य नहीं होता. It means you are able to see the Almighty in physical form. It is not, the word here is यो मा पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वतम च सर्वम च मयि पश्यति. That those who they can see each other precisely. There is no paroks thing there. It is direct experience of the Almighty, and both of them can be, seeing each other. This is a very, very, I would tell you that this state is possible at the highest point in life, highest spiritual attainment. This is beyond samadhi. It is after the samadhi, once you have attained unity of the entire existence, then you reach this particular state. So, from starting from the position how we sit down, how we regulate our sense organs, how we what we call chitrati nirod, or the word here in Gita has been used chittam niruddham. How we can divert our sense organs from this worldly objects, and then slowly how we become one with the Almighty. This entire process of meditation has been explained by Lord Krishna in these verses up to verse number 30. Starting from verse number, let me go back there, I think it's 11. Yeah, verse number 11 till verse number 30, he explains everything, how we proceed and how we can be one with the Almighty. So these verses are also actually the foundation of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra has been developed based on these verses, but in a different format. They talk about 8 different states, but here Lord Krishna has explained in a different way. Of course, this text is much older than Patanjali's text because this appears in Mahabharata, which is 5,150 some years old. So this is how we understand these two verses. These are the culmination of our spiritual life. These two verses, if we can experience them in our practical life, then there's nothing else is needed. We are one with the Almighty. Then let's go to verse number 31. जो पुरुष एक ही भाव में स्थित होकर संपूर्ण भूतों में आत्म रूप से मुझ आत्म रूप से स्थित मुझ सच्चिदानंद घन को भजता है, वह योगी सब प्रकार से बरतता हुआ भी मुझ में ही बरतता है. So this is an explanation of this, that once you are one with the Almighty, once you realize that you have become part of the ocean, the drop has fallen into the ocean, then whatever you do, you are all the time with the Almighty. There is nothing but Almighty, nothing but pure consciousness, nothing but universal consciousness for that person. All this, what we call, the variety which arises from the unity disappears, because this variety is merely a demonstration of the unity of the universal consciousness gives rise to this what we call all this manifestation in the world, which appears in so many millions of forms and billions of forms in different forms. So I think this is what he says, that once you are one with him, you are completely, with him all the time, constantly. Now, I would like to explain two words here which are also taught in Indian philosophical way. This is very simple words, that is Srasti Drasti and Drasti Srasti. Srasti Drasti. That is, you see the Srasti, which is all around you. You see all this manifestation in different, physical forms which exist in this universe, and then all variety of life that exists in different forms. So that is the Srasti, and then you see it as it is. That is the manifestation of the Srasti in its complete form. So this is looking at the world outside and differentiating each existence separately. That is how we begin our life. We begin our life with Srasti Drasti. We look at the things as they are different from each other. You are different than me, I'm different from somebody else, and a dog is different than me, and an elephant is different than me, and then a bird is different than me. We look at the world in that way, that every single entity is different. That is drasti. You see the srasti as it exists. And then you convert that slowly into drasti srasti. That everything you see is actually srasti. Srasti doesn't exist independent of your drasti. Your drasti is the one which creates srasti. Because unless you see, you cannot have srasti. So you see because of your consciousness. The eyesight function because of the consciousness you have. And then you see the world outside. So the srasti is not existing in itself, but it is the existence which happens because of your drasti. So drasti is the one which creates this universe in that sense. And the second part is the one when you start becoming one with the Almighty, then you feel that it is the consciousness which exists in you is the root cause of all this srasti. This is the root cause of whatever you see around you, whatever you see in this universe. So this is a transformative state. From srasti, drasti, you convert to drasti, srasti. And this is what these two verses all about, that we become drasti, srasti. This existence is because of the consciousness which has been provided to us, and because of that consciousness we are able to use our faculties, our senses, and that senses give rise to the existence in this world. Otherwise we have no, the existence doesn't exist for us unless we have this consciousness, as the dead man has no uh, you know feeling of this existence at all. So this is what this in two words some people have described this whole concept very beautifully. So let us have drasti srasti concept finally, that this universe, all the multiple things which we see, they are because of the consciousness we have. Because of that consciousness, we are able to see all this variety which exists in the world. It is not a variety, it is all the creation of that one single consciousness which is prevailing in myself, which is present in myself. So now let's go to verse number 32. हे अर्जुन, जो योगी अपनी भांति संपूर्ण भूतों में सम देखता है और सुख अथवा दुख में भी सब में सम देखता है, वह योगी परम श्रेष्ठ माना गया है. I think Lord Krishna has emphasized this sambhav in many verses in Bhagavad Gita, that you have to become uh, what we call equanimous, equanimity, that you should not get waved by the distress or by the praise. If somebody is criticizing you, somebody is praising you, if you are in trouble, if you are in comfort, you should not get, uh, you know, uh, uh, different feelings in all these states. You should have similar feelings, that is sambhav. You should have constantly the same feeling in yourself, irrespective of the circumstances prevailing outside. And that is the concept here. And he has said this earlier, and this is saying it again, that sambhav is the final outcome of the meditation, final outcome. When you become one with the Almighty, then you do not have any problem at all in any state of life. Whether that state arises out of distress, whether it arises out of lot of comfort and praise for you. So you are transcending, you are going beyond the dualities of life, because these dualities are prevailing in this world, and those are the realities of the world, but you transcend these worldly things and you become absolutely equanimous in all the conditions. Then you are absolutely stable. So now, after listening to Lord Krishna in so many verses about meditation and how you control your mind and your senses, now Arjuna is asking a question which is again a very profound question. So the verse number 33, अर्जुन बोले, हे मधुसूदन, जो यह योग आपने संभाव से कहा है, मन के चंचल होने से मैं इसकी नित्य स्थिति को नहीं देखता हूं. नित्य स्थिति means that I can't see it in a stable form. And let's read the next one also because they are related. क्योंकि हे कृष्ण, ये मन बड़ा चंचल, प्रमथन स्वभाव वाला और दृढ़ और बलवान है. चंचल, प्रमथन स्वभाव वाला, दृढ़ और बलवान है, इसलिए इसको वश में करना मैं वायु की भांति अत्यंत दुष्कर मानता हूं. Now this is a question which we all have. Each one of us has this question. That you are talking about sambhav, you are talking about equanimity, you are talking about totally regulating your sense organs and your mind becomes one with the Almighty. But that is not possible because the mind is very, very, chanchal. It is all the time wavering. It's wavering constantly. Like the wind keeps moving all the time, the mind keeps moving all the time. So I do not see that how we can attain this state. This is what he is saying. This is a very realistic question. This question is the question which we all, each one of us can ask the same question. That okay, you are telling us then an idealistic situation, but how do we attain that idealistic situation? Because the mind is very, wavering kind of thing. It's constantly moving. It's not even possible to keep it in one state even for 5 minutes. Those people who can keep it in exactly the same position for 5 minutes, they are considered great. So how do you attain that? Now this is absolutely, a right question and a question which is practical for all of us. Now what is here he has also compared mind with wind or air. The mind is all the time moving. Now there are two views here. Some people believe that mind is a material construct and the material which has been used for mind is wind. Wind and mind are made of the same material and therefore they keep moving. That is one approach which has been given in Indian thoughts. That actually even indirectly Krishna agrees with this approach because he will tell us later on that the nature, the physical nature is divided into 8 parts and one of them is mind. Panch Mahabhut and then Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. So mind is in that sense made of physical nature. And the material which has been used for making the mind is similar to the one which has been used for making the air. So this is one concept. The other concept says that mind is not matter, but mind is a relationship between the body and the soul. The consciousness and body, they are connected with mind. The mind is the one which connects the two. It's a sort of relationship between the body and the consciousness. And I would say that both the concepts are true because, in my view, the mind is a material construct. It is not a spiritual construct. It is a material construct, but it is also an instrument which connects our body with the consciousness. It's the relationship. Like we have relationship with our son, we have relationship with our neighbor. Now that relationship does not exist physically. There's no physical existence of that relationship, but it is there. So some people believe that this mind is not physically constructed, But this is a relationship between the self and the body. But I don't want to go into this debate, because whatever way you consider it doesn't matter. Whether you consider mind as a relationship between the self and the body, or whether you consider mind as a physical construct in the body made of the same material as wind, it doesn't matter. The fact remains that the mind is constantly changing. It's undergoing change constantly. It's wavering. It is not easy to keep it in a static form. It's keep changing constantly, constantly. Even for 5 minutes, we cannot keep it quiet. Now, so this question um, we have to look at the answer, what the answer Krishna gives to this question. First, I'm sure each one of us has this question. Now, there are two, three words which we have to understand here in the verse number 34. Chanchal. Chanchal word we understand, that constantly moving. They say, I don't think there's any appropriate word in English language to describe chanchal. Chanchal is, like waves are constantly moving. So it's the constant movement, but constant movement is not chanchal. Chanchal has something else as well. जैसे कोई बच्चा चंचल होता है, हम उसको कहते हैं, that's not only the movement, but there are many things associated with it. So that is chanchal. Then pramathan swabhav wala. Pramathan swabhav wala means you cannot change it easily. It's not easy to change a particular tendency which is given there. Pramathan swabhav is a word that it's very obstinate. It's highly obstinate in that nature. That nature is not easy to change. That is pramathan swabhav. And then it says Drad or Balwan, it's very, very strong. The mind is very strong. It is true, because I have experienced it myself. When you sit down in meditation, it moves somewhere else, and immediately, or sometimes, after a few seconds, you realize, oh, mind has taken you somewhere else. You bring it back. So it happens. It is very strong. It wants to dominate the body and consciousness. It wants to be in the driver's seat all the time. So all the three qualities of the mind, chanchal, pramathan swabhavala, and drad and balwan, that is, it is absolutely, uh, dominant. All three are correct. All three we can experience. They are correct. And then he says, अ, इसको वश में करना वायु को वश में करने की तरह से बड़ा दुष्कर है. Now, how do you control the vayu? You take the vayu in your hand, and as soon as you put it like this, it goes away. It's not easy to control the wind. Firstly, we can't even see the wind. Wind is not even visible to our eyes. It's constantly moving. The movement could be, fast, it could be very smooth, it could be very slow, but the movement is always there in the wind. We realize it when we close the door of our house. Sometimes the wind comes and it, gush, very strong wind comes and the doors close on their own. That is the moment we realize that wind is strong. But even otherwise, wind is always there constantly. We are breathing. We are breathing because of the movement of the wind. The entire breathing process depends on that. So the movement of the wind is constant. Similarly, the movement of the mind. The movement may be slow, movement could be very fast, movement could be galloping, movement could be, trotting. That is the difference in all that. So all these four qualities which Arjun has mentioned are based on the realities of life, the experience we have in our real life. So now let us see what Lord Krishna says in response to this question, because this is a very practical question. श्री भगवान बोले, हे महाबाहो, निसंदेह मन चंचल और कठिनता से वश में होने वाला है. This is absolutely true. The man is very chanchal, and it is not easy to keep it under check. So that is what he says. परंतु हे कुंती पुत्र अर्जुन, यह अभ्यास और वैराग्य से वश में होता है. two words, Abhyas and Vairagya. Now we have to understand these two words because this is our practical problem. We also have this problem. Abhyas means that you have to constantly keep bringing the mind to the place where you want to keep it. It will keep moving, but you will have to bring it back. That is what we do in meditation. Meditation is the method of bringing the mind back to the position where we want to keep. For example, you keep a lamp burning and you want to keep your mind constantly still on the flame of the lamp. Now it will keep going here and there, flickering, here and there. But then you bring it back when it goes, you bring it back. When it goes away, you bring it back. Then slowly, a time will come that it will reduce, the movement of the mind will reduce considerably and it will start stabilizing on the lamp. This happens, and this is the experience each one of us would have. Those who are trying to keep the mind stable during our meditation sessions, I'm sure all of you will have that experience. And that is the reason I always repeat those certain things, that if the mind goes out, you bring it back to, for example, to Agya Chakra. So this is how we do. Abhyas means you have to do a regular practice, and this practice it has to be constant. It cannot be done only once a while. No, it has to be done regularly. Then only it works. So that is one part of Abhyas. And Vairagya. Now Vairagya is one when Rag and Vairag. Rag means you are getting attracted to the things in the world, and Vairagya means that you are getting distracted from them. You are going uh, uh, slowly away from the worldly objects. So slowly you have to. These are the two key words which he has used for keeping the mind under check. Abhyas and Vairagya. Let us remember these two words. Vairagya means slowly you have to realize the futility of the attractions in the world. For example, take the person who is in position of power. Now, once you reach the position of power, you have experienced that, and it didn't give you great pleasure. It in fact increased your stress. It increased your problems. It increased your engagement. Now, all this only led to problems. So, why do you have to aspire to become powerful? There's no need. Maybe it gives you a feeling that you become very important person, but ultimately it destroys your peace. So, why should you become that? So, that is the way you can become, this particular attraction should become unattractive to you. This is how one has to go into each object of life. For example, you go into accumulation of wealth. Now you look at the life of the people who have accumulated a lot of wealth. Are they peaceful? Are they living a good, comfortable life? No, they don't even have time to live that life. They are becoming so much busy because of the work that the wealth which they have accumulated cannot be used by them. They have no time to use that wealth. Then there's a problem of security. They invite a lot of jealousy. They invite terrorists to attack them. They invite, sometimes people in that condition, their children are taken hostage uh, for ransom. So there are variety of problems which arise because of the accumulation of wealth. So why should we accumulate? The wealth should not attract us. The enough wealth, the wealth which is enough to make your livelihood comfortable, that should be fine. Beyond that, we don't have to get attracted. So you have to analyze each attraction in this world and then come to the conclusion that going into that path beyond a point is absolutely useless, because that becomes in fact, rather than becoming a matter of satisfaction and a matter of great comfort, it becomes a source of discomfort. it becomes a sort of source of stress for the person directly. So this is the way you can reach into the state of vairagya. One by one, you analyze different objects which are attracting you in this world, and then realize that you have seen the people who have achieved all those. For example, fame. People have achieved tremendous fame, and those people who have achieved fame, they get into a lot of trouble all the time. Their freedom is lost. They can't even eat what they want to eat. They can't even walk on the streets if they want to walk. They, you know, can't comfortably go and visit a place which they want to visit, because they will always be followed, always be disturbed. Their peace is disturbed. Look at the life of, for example, Princess Diana. Look at her life. She was always prisoner, surrounded by people all the time. Similarly, look at some of our, the Bollywood actor actresses. Their life becomes complicated because of the fame. So we have to realize that whether it is the wealth, whether it is the position of power, whether it is sexual desire, whether it is fame, they are beyond a point. They all lead to problems. They disturb your peace of mind. They disturb your tranquility, and therefore we should not go into that direction beyond a point, and that will bring what we call a vairagya from these attractions in the world. These attractions of Maya can be overcome, we can transcend them only when we develop this kind of mentality. And I think that is why some of the philosophers, including Osho, has suggested that you go deeply into that, and then you will realize that it has not served the purpose you wanted to serve, and you become frustrated, then you completely discard that particular path. So this is how we have to develop vairagya. So abhyas and vairagya, these are the two key words which are which have been told by Lord Krishna to get into this path of meditation, which will ultimately lead you to unity with the Almighty. Then the verse number 36, जिसका मन वश में किया हुआ नहीं है, ऐसे पुरुष द्वारा योग दुष्प्राप्य है. He is very clear that unless you can regulate your mind, it is not easy for the person to reach the state of yoga. Yoga means one with the Almighty, yukt. You become yukt with the Almighty. So you become one with the Almighty. Only when you are able to regulate your mind. If you are not able to regulate your mind, it is going to be extremely difficult. So जिसका मन वश में किया हुआ नहीं है, ऐसे पुरुष द्वारा योग दुष्प्राप्य है, और वश में किए हुए मन वाले प्रयत्नशील पुरुष द्वारा साधन से योग का प्राप्त होना सहज है, यह मेरा मत है. Now the same thing here, three words. मन को वश में करना, पहली चीज मन को वश में करना. Secondly, प्रयत्नशील, that you are constantly endeavoring to attain unity with the Almighty. And sadhan means you are persistently following that path. So three keywords here: the regulating the mind, constantly endeavoring in that direction, and having the perseverance not to get distracted in the middle. So prayatnasil, sadhan, and man ko bas mein karna. These are the three things which he has said here, and two things in the previous word, abhyas and vairagya, and three things here. I think these are the key to meditation. Meditation in the sense getting one with the Almighty, seeing Almighty all around yourself and seeing yourself in the Almighty. I think that will be possible once we are able to do these things as stated by Lord Krishna. अभ्यास, वैराग्य, मन को वश में करना, प्रयत्न करना और साधन. These are the five keys here. And then he has described, of course, the other things from verse number 11 to verse number 32, including the outcome which happens. Verse number 11 to verse number 28, actually. And then 29, 30, 31, and 32 is the outcome of the effort which you do as suggested by him in verses from 11 to 28. So this is what a very deep knowledge of the life and how to transform the life has been given in these verses by Lord Krishna. The the question asked by Arjuna in verse number 33 and 34 is the question which we all ask, we all face. Each one of us is facing those problems. And then these five keywords here: अभ्यास, वैराग्य, मन को वश में करना, प्रयत्न करना और साधन से करना. I think these are the five keys we have to follow, and then we will be able to attain that path. So I'll stop here. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, and then we will do meditation. I think meditation is very important because that is the time when we actually try to bring our mind under some sort of regulation, and the what you call the waves which keep coming in our mind, they should be reduced in number, and the mind should become more and more stable. Then we will attain what we call the anand. Then we will attain more and more happiness in our life, and finally culminating into a state of anand or somehow where we are not really uh, getting impacted by the pain or pleasure or by heat or dust or by praise and criticism. They will not distract us. We will reach a state of total stability and one with the Almighty. So thank you very much. If you have any question, please let me know. I'll try my best to answer that.